Processing pain can look different depending on the situation, but I'm going to introduce you to the ideas behind using the self-coaching model. I was recently working with a 7th grader, and she's an artist, and she was super excited to post her art on Instagram. And so she got brave and posted one of her favorite pieces, and do you know that one of her very best friends got on Instagram and wrote under her art, "Your art is ugly." And I asked her, whoa, what do you make that mean? And she said, well, it really upset me. She's my best friend, she should support me. And I thought, okay, well, that makes sense to me. So this is a true story. It took her about a week. She finally got brave enough to post art again. And do you know, after she posted her other art, a perfect stranger got on Instagram and wrote the exact same thing. "Your art is ugly." And I asked her, wow, what did you make that mean? And she said, I don't even know that person. I could care less what he thinks. And I thought, well, that's interesting. It's the same sentence. Your art is ugly, your art is ugly. But one of them hurts and the other one doesn't. So can it be the sentence, your art is ugly, that hurts? Or is it what we make it mean? Recently, I was working with an 8th grade boy, the sweetest boy, and he had just moved to a brand new town, a new school, a new neighborhood. He knew no one. And he was aching to make some new friends, but he was quiet and shy and didn't really know how. One day at lunch, he was finally getting up the courage to go up and talk to someone, and one of his peers ran by him and in front of all of the classmates said, "You look like an overweight squirrel." My mom heart when I heard this. But I asked him, what did you make it mean? And he said, well, I think it's true. I do. I do look weird, and other people think I look weird too. Now, when he was thinking this thought, he felt embarrassed. Now, here's what I want to point out. Most people don't know that this middle step even exists. They think something happens and I have a feeling about it. Something else happens, I have a different feeling. They have no idea that this middle step is even going on. But this middle step is the most important step. Whenever something in our life happens, we have a thought about it, and that thought creates our feelings. So in this situation, when the boy said to him, "You look like an overweight squirrel," his thought was, it's true, I do look weird, and other people think I look weird too. And that's what caused him to feel embarrassed. I know this is true because I know if somebody called me an overweight squirrel, I would be amused, I would laugh, because I don't think humans look like overweight squirrels. But this boy in this moment didn't have access to that thought. So it took some time of me coaching this boy through his situation. I can't just give him the thought. It's the reason, parents, that when you say something to your child like, "But you're so handsome, why would anyone say that?" They don't want to hear it because they don't believe you, because they believe the thought they believe. The only way for them to feel better is for them to come up with the new thought, for them to decide that they think about it differently. So as we coach through why a boy that doesn't know him might run by him and say something like he's an overweight squirrel, when we really started to dissect what happened here, he was finally on his own able to see it a different way. And so the new thought he came up with was, you know what, I think he's just having a bad day, and this situation doesn't have anything to do with me. It doesn't have anything to do with what I look like. He realized it was about the boy. And when he came up with this new thought, immediately the embarrassment went away and he felt content. What I want you to take away from this is the understanding that our thoughts create our feelings. Our thoughts are responsible for how we feel. It's not the people, places, and things in our lives that are creating our feelings. It's what we're thinking about the people, places, and things in our lives. Our circumstances are actually neutral. They don't have the power to make us feel anything, not happy or sad or good or bad, until we have a thought about it. There is always a sentence running through our mind that will determine how we are going to feel about whatever's happening in our lives. Now, one of the examples I like to use when I'm illustrating this point is death. And the reason I do this is because I have so many people come into my office and say, "Jheri, how can you say that it's my thoughts that create my feelings? Look at these terrible things that are happening in my life. Look what's going on with my child or in my life. Maybe they're getting a divorce. Maybe they've gone through trauma. Maybe they've lost somebody that they love. And so I use death because I think almost everyone associates grief with death. So if there's anyone in your life that you've been close to, that you've lost, you know it feels terrible. And you usually feel a lot of sadness and grief. And the reason for this is because your thoughts are something like, I can't believe this happened. This is terrible. I'm never going to see them again. How could this happen? Now, if someone else passes away that you don't know at all, you don't even know anyone who knows them, you just heard about it, you're probably not going to feel grief and sadness. Your thoughts are going to be very different. Maybe they'll be, that's sad for their family, but they're not going to be the same as when you knew someone or you were close to them and they died. It's death over here and it's death over here. They're both death. But death doesn't mean anything until we have a thought about it. It doesn't affect us until we have thoughts about death. And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't feel sad or grief over death. But what I am suggesting is that if we believe it's death itself that's making us sad, then there's no way to ever not be sad. We're just stuck being sad forever. But if we understand that it's our thoughts about death that are creating and causing our pain, then we have some power over it. Then, as time goes on and we feel ready, we can start to change our thoughts around death. Anytime anything in your life happens, there will always be a thought or a sentence running through your mind that will create the feelings that you have. I want to show you what this looks like in real time. So recently I was teaching in the Pinal County School District in Arizona, and I had a curriculum where I was teaching these children to learn to self-coach. The same things that I teach in my private practice with teenagers and adults. And this was the fourth class I was there to teach, and there was a girl, I think she was in 9th or 10th grade, sitting in the back, and she was actively not participating. She was making it known that she didn't want to participate. She's in the back of the room, her head is down, and she's keeping to herself. And this was the class where I'm showing them how to do the model on their own. And so the first part of the model is the negative or unintentional model. And I'm noticing that this girl doesn't really want to write anything down. So I go back there, I kind of help her through the steps to writing a model. And this was the model that she came up with. The backstory here is that she did not want to go to school because she told her mom she felt like she needed a mental health day. She wrote down for her circumstance, I'm copying this right from her paper. My mom said, "You have to go to school today." That was her circumstance. Now, as a parent, you can see this is a very neutral circumstance. Our circumstances are neutral. But to this girl, it did not feel neutral. Her thought was, my mom does not care about my mental health. And when she was thinking this thought, she felt unloved. And when she felt unloved, she purposely got ready for school slowly so she would be late to school. She had a negative thought loop of thoughts running through her mind about her mom. She isolated herself and she did not participate in class. And the result that she gave herself in this model was that she believed in this moment that her mom did not love her or care about her. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that our results are direct evidence of whatever we're thinking. When she thought the thought, my mom doesn't care about my mental health, her result became that she believed her mom did not love her or care about her. She created that result in this moment in time for herself. So then, as the class went on, I talked to the students about how to change our model to an intentional model, to a positive model. There's a skill set that goes into this because we can't just put whatever we want in the new thought line. We have to actually take some time to dissect what our brain's believing and why it's believing that and what else it's willing to believe. But after going through that process with the students, this girl was able to come up with a new model. And after class was over, she waited for everyone to leave and she came up to me with tears in her eyes. And she said, "I had no idea that my thoughts could change my feelings. No one ever told me that before. This changes everything for me." and I want to share with you what her new model looked like. Her circumstance stayed the same because usually we can't change our circumstances. Her mom still said, "You have to go to school today." But her new thought was, "My mom cares about me getting a good education." And in talking to her, she said that she could find evidence that this was true because her mom is constantly talking to her about her future and her education, helping her with homework, and she very rarely lets her miss school. But when she came up with this new thought, now she felt motivated. Instead of unloved in this moment, she felt motivated. And when she felt motivated, her actions completely changed because our actions are driven by the way that we feel. So now she participated in class. She texted her mom to apologize, and her negative thoughts were no longer there. And the result that she created for herself through this model was that she also cared about her education and appreciated her mom. Again, our thoughts are responsible for the results we get in our life because our thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings drive our actions, and our actions give us our results. So when she thinks, "My mom cares about me getting a good education," she also cares about her education and she appreciates her mom. And this is what the self-coaching model looks like. As I've explained, the circumstance is neutral, but whenever something happens, our mind comes up with a thought. Sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive. And our thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings then drive our actions, and our actions give us the results that we get in our lives.